7 silent habits of people who can't be manipulated. Let me start with a truth that most people ignore. You don't get manipulated because others are powerful. You get manipulated because you forget your own power. Every time someone plays with your emotions, every time someone pulls your strings, every time someone controls your decisions, it's not because they are smarter, it's because you're missing the silent habits that protect your peace, guard your self-respect, and make you unshakable. And today, we're about to fix that. These aren't loud habits. These aren't Instagram habits. These are the quiet, internal disciplines of people who can walk into any room and instantly send one message: you can't mess with me. Let's begin. People who cannot be manipulated have mastered the art of listening. And when I say listening, I don't just mean hearing words. I mean truly absorbing the energy, the intent, and the subtext behind every single thing someone says. Most people rush to respond. They panic if there's silence. They feel compelled to explain themselves, justify their actions, or fill every empty space with noise. But here's the secret. The moment you stop speaking and start listening, you instantly gain power. Silence becomes your tool, your radar, your shield. It gives you the advantage because while everyone else is busy talking, trying to influence and testing boundaries, you are observing, learning, and deciphering the true motives behind their words. Manipulators rely on reaction. They thrive on emotional responses, confusion, and impulsivity. They want you to respond immediately because every second you speak without reflection is a second they gain control over. But someone who cannot be manipulated knows that every word spoken without thought is an opportunity for others to push your buttons. They pause. They breathe. They allow the silence to stretch, letting the other person fill it themselves. And often, in that process, people reveal more than they intended. They show their tactics, their insecurities, their manipulative patterns, all without realizing it. Listening in this way requires patience, focus, and emotional discipline. It means ignoring the instinct to interrupt or defend yourself, even when the conversation stirs discomfort. It's about observing tone, body language, inconsistencies, and the subtle shifts in behavior. A skilled listener notices hesitation, exaggeration, and overcompensation. They detect when someone is attempting to guilt, flatter, or intimidate, and they never react hastily. This silent vigilance allows them to respond intentionally rather than reflexively, always maintaining control of their own emotions. Moreover, listening deeply is a statement of self-respect. It communicates that you are not swayed by words alone, and that you won't allow anyone to manipulate your decisions with charm, fear, or coercion. Every time you choose to listen instead of speak, you are strengthening your inner armor. It's a quiet but unmistakable message to the world. You are fully aware, fully present, and fully in command of your boundaries. People who have mastered this habit are not easily rattled, and manipulators quickly realize that their usual tactics will fail because silence exposes their methods. In essence, listening is not passive. It is the most active form of resistance. It's a conscious strategy that turns attention into power, observation into protection, and patience into influence. The more you practice the art of silent listening, the more unshakable you become. And that, above all, is why manipulators can never truly touch someone who has perfected this habit. People who cannot be manipulated have an unshakable habit. They don't over-explain themselves. This might sound simple, but it is one of the most powerful shields against manipulation. Most people think that in order to be understood, accepted, or liked, they need to justify every action, clarify every decision, and provide endless explanations for why they do what they do. Manipulators exploit this instinct. They thrive on your need to justify yourself because each word you speak in defense of your choices gives them a foothold. They twist your explanations, question your motives, and trap you in cycles of guilt and self-doubt. But the person who cannot be manipulated knows the power of brevity and precision. Not over-explaining yourself is more than just saying less. It's a demonstration of self-respect and confidence. It communicates, without arrogance, that your choices, your boundaries, and your values are your own and require no validation from others. They don't offer paragraphs to make someone else feel comfortable with their decisions. Instead, they speak clearly, calmly, and decisively. Their boundaries are not negotiable. They are stated once with certainty, and that's enough. The manipulator's tricks, guilt trips, passive-aggressive comments, or emotional blackmail have no power here because there is no opening, no room for confusion, and no need for approval. This habit also has an internal benefit. It strengthens emotional independence. When you stop over-explaining, you no longer base your self-worth on other people's understanding or agreement. You stop seeking validation, and suddenly, your actions are guided by your own principles rather than the fear of judgment. Manipulators hate this because control often comes from your willingness to doubt yourself, over-explain, or seek permission. When you remove that vulnerability, their leverage disappears. Additionally, people who master this habit are able to maintain clarity in communication. Their words carry weight because they are intentional. Every sentence is meaningful. There is no filler, no confusion, no room for someone to manipulate through misinterpretation. They've learned that sometimes saying nothing more than necessary is more powerful than speaking 100 words. It's the silence after their statement, the confidence in their tone, the unshakable calm in their delivery that reinforces their control and presence. Ultimately, not over-explaining yourself is not about being cold or distant. It's about being rooted, decisive, and emotionally sovereign. It's about understanding that your peace and integrity are far more valuable than the approval or comprehension of someone who might not have your best interests at heart. And once this habit is mastered, manipulation doesn't stand a chance because you've eliminated the very cracks in your armor that manipulators rely on. People who cannot be manipulated have mastered the habit of trusting actions, not words. This is a subtle but incredibly powerful skill because manipulators are masters of storytelling. They know exactly what to say to make you feel safe, valued, or guilty. They can promise change, craft beautiful explanations, and wrap their intentions in words that sound genuine. But anyone who is easily manipulated focuses on words instead of observing what is actually happening. The person who cannot be manipulated knows that words are cheap. They can be crafted, repeated, and manipulated. Actions, on the other hand, are unfiltered. Actions are real. Actions reveal priorities, patterns, and intentions. When someone shows up consistently, follows through on promises, and behaves with integrity, you can trust them. But when someone's actions contradict their words, when they say, "I care," but ignore your needs, or claim, "I'll change," but repeat the same behavior, their words become meaningless. People who cannot be manipulated understand this distinction deeply. They wait, they observe, they see whether the words are supported by tangible behavior, and they make their judgments based on patterns over time, not emotional appeals in the moment. This habit also protects emotional stability. Manipulators often try to accelerate intimacy or connection by flooding you with words of charm or remorse. They rely on your ability to be convinced before you have enough evidence. But the person who trusts actions waits patiently, knowing that emotional promises without consistent follow-through are not commitments. They are tools of influence. By focusing on behavior rather than words, they avoid being swept into emotional traps, guilt trips, or false narratives. Moreover, trusting actions over words strengthens boundaries. When someone says what you want to hear but does not back it up with action, you don't bend, compromise, or overextend yourself. You see clearly and you act accordingly. You don't give someone power over your emotions just because they are persuasive or charismatic. Instead, you respond in alignment with reality, not illusion. This clarity becomes magnetic. It signals to the world that you cannot be fooled, coerced, or controlled by empty promises. Ultimately, this habit is about valuing truth over convenience, substance over charm, and reality over fantasy. It's a quiet yet profound form of emotional intelligence. People who cannot be manipulated don't fall for clever words. They read the actions, patterns, and integrity behind them. And in doing so, they reclaim their power, protect their peace, and remain untouchable by manipulation. People who cannot be manipulated have a simple but incredibly powerful habit. They can say no without feeling bad. This might sound basic, but it is one of the hardest skills to master in a world designed to make us feel guilty for protecting ourselves. Most people bend over backward to please others. They fear rejection, confrontation, or disapproval, so they say yes even when it goes against. their own needs, values, or peace of mind. Manipulators rely on this fear. They know that when they push hard enough, guilt will get the compliance they desire. But emotionally strong people understand that saying no is not just a word, it's a statement of self-respect, boundaries, and sovereignty. Saying no effectively is both an internal and external practice. Internally, it requires confidence and a clear sense of your own priorities. You must know what you will and will not tolerate, and you must understand that protecting your energy is more important than seeking approval. Externally, it's about delivering that no calmly and without over-explaining. You don't need to justify yourself, argue, or plead. A simple, grounded no is sufficient. It is concise, confident, and unshakable, leaving no room for manipulation or negotiation. This habit also rewires your emotional response to pressure. Manipulators often try to weaponize your empathy, kindness, or fear of conflict. They rely on your guilt to bend your will. But the person who can say no without feeling bad doesn't internalize that pressure. They maintain calm, steady composure, and a sense of inner authority. In essence, they are immune to emotional coercion because they know that their boundaries are not optional. They are non-negotiable. Moreover, mastering the ability to say no strengthens other aspects of your life. Your time becomes sacred, your energy becomes protected, and your relationships become healthier. People respect you more because they know where you stand. Your life begins to operate on your terms, not on the manipulator's agenda. You stop chasing approval or trying to meet impossible expectations. Saying no isn't about rejecting people. It's about prioritizing yourself and communicating clearly what you will allow in your life. Ultimately, the ability to say no without guilt is a declaration of freedom. It's a quiet, yet incredibly powerful habit that separates those who can be manipulated from those who cannot. When you master this habit, manipulation loses its grip entirely. You walk through life with confidence, clarity, and the knowledge that your peace and autonomy are yours to protect, and no one else's words, tactics, or pressure can take them away. People who cannot be manipulated have mastered a habit that is both simple and profoundly freeing. They are not scared of losing people. Most of us live in constant fear of abandonment. We worry about rejection, about what people will think if we set boundaries, and about the possibility of being alone. Manipulators exploit this fear relentlessly. They create pressure, guilt, and emotional dependence, making you feel that if you speak up, walk away, or enforce your boundaries, you will lose the relationship, the opportunity, or the affection you crave. But emotionally unshakable people see this fear for what it is, a trap. They know that if someone leaves because they refuse to compromise their peace or values, that person was never truly committed, supportive, or trustworthy to begin with. Being unafraid of losing people does not mean being cold, detached, or indifferent. It means understanding the value of your own presence and your own energy. It means recognizing that relationships should be mutual, respectful, and grounded in authenticity, not manipulation, coercion, or fear. People who cannot be manipulated don't cling, they observe, they protect, and they act in alignment with their worth. If someone leaves because of their boundaries, it is not a failure. It is a release of what never belonged to them anyway. This habit also strengthens emotional resilience. Manipulators often weaponize attachment, making you feel desperate to maintain their presence. But those who are unafraid of loss know that their happiness, stability, and growth do not depend on the approval or acceptance of anyone else. Their emotional foundation is self-sufficient. They invest in relationships that respect their boundaries and let go of those that don't, without guilt or panic. This not only protects them from manipulation, but also sends a powerful, silent message to others. I am not here to be controlled or used. I am here to walk beside those who honor me. Moreover, not fearing loss brings clarity to decision-making when you are not motivated by fear. You can see situations clearly, make choices intentionally, and act without compromise. You can prioritize your well-being over someone else's attempts to guilt, pressure, or confuse you. You stop negotiating your values for temporary approval or validation, and that is precisely what makes manipulators powerless. Ultimately, the habit of not fearing loss is a declaration of freedom. It is a habit that transforms relationships from a source of anxiety into a source of respect and authenticity. People who cultivate this strength are untouchable by manipulation because they understand that their worth is internal, their peace is paramount, and the presence of others in their life is a choice, not a necessity. In that space, they move through life with confidence, calm, and complete control over their emotional landscape. People who cannot be manipulated have mastered the habit of taking time to respond rather than reacting. This is one of the quietest but most powerful habits for protecting your emotional space. Most people operate on impulse, reacting instantly to words, tone, or situations, especially when emotions are triggered. Manipulators rely on this reflex. They want a fast response because emotional reactions are raw, unfiltered, and easy to influence. When you react immediately, you hand them control over your thoughts, your feelings, and even your decisions. But emotionally intelligent, unshakable people have learned a simple truth: pause is power. Taking time to respond doesn't mean ignoring the situation or avoiding communication. It means giving yourself the space to process, analyze, and align your response with reality, not emotion. When someone is trying to manipulate you, every second of pause allows you to separate fact from emotional pressure, truth from deception, and action from manipulation. Silence becomes your ally. It forces manipulators to reveal more of themselves as they try to provoke, persuade, or confuse you. It gives you the opportunity to see the patterns in their behavior and the strategy behind their words. This habit also transforms your emotional state. When you pause, you prevent anger, guilt, or fear from dictating your response. You regain control over your mind, your voice, and your energy. You respond intentionally, not impulsively. And that is exactly what makes manipulation powerless. You no longer react to the manipulator's agenda. You operate from your own, grounded in your values, your priorities, and your sense of self. Moreover, taking time to respond signals strength and confidence to the world. People who cannot be manipulated don't rush to justify themselves, explain excessively, or placate others. They communicate clearly and deliberately, letting their calm, measured words carry authority. This quiet discipline creates an invisible boundary. It tells others that you cannot be rushed, pressured, or controlled, and that any attempts at manipulation will be met with patience, discernment, and control. Ultimately, the habit of responding rather than reacting is a declaration of emotional sovereignty. It allows you to see the truth behind words, to protect your boundaries, and to maintain control in situations where others attempt to influence or deceive. It is a habit that strengthens every other silent habit, reinforcing your presence, your confidence, and your immunity to manipulation. In a world where impulsive reactions give manipulators power, the ability to pause, observe, and respond is one of the most effective weapons you can cultivate. In life, the ability to protect yourself from manipulation is not about becoming cold, detached, or unfeeling. It is about cultivating an inner strength, clarity, and awareness that allows you to operate from a position of power rather than fear. The 7 silent habits we explored: listening more than speaking, not over-explaining, trusting actions over words, saying no without guilt, not fearing loss, taking time to respond, and knowing your value are not mere strategies. They are the foundation of emotional sovereignty. They give you the power to walk into any situation with calm, discernment, and confidence, and they allow you to make decisions based on truth, not manipulation. By mastering these habits, you reclaim control over your life, your choices, and your relationships. Silence becomes your ally, observation becomes your tool, and self-respect becomes your shield. You no longer allow others to pull your strings because you understand that manipulation thrives on uncertainty, reaction, and emotional dependence. When you operate from these habits, every interaction becomes a test you pass effortlessly because you are grounded in awareness, patience, and personal power. You no longer chase approval, you maintain integrity. These habits also transform how others perceive you. People sense strength and stability even when it is quiet and subtle. Manipulators quickly learn that their usual tactics will not work. Emotional games, guilt trips, or charm cannot sway someone who knows their worth and maintains strong boundaries. This is not about intimidation, it's about presence. You radiate a quiet confidence that demands respect, encourages authentic connection, and discourages toxic influence. Others are drawn to your integrity, not your reaction, and that is the hallmark of someone who cannot be manipulated. Ultimately, the journey to mastering these silent habits is a journey to mastering yourself. It requires patience, self-awareness, and consistency, but the rewards are profound: freedom, clarity, and emotional resilience. You begin to live life on your own terms, make decisions with confidence, and protect your peace at all costs. By integrating these habits into your daily life, you will no longer be at the mercy of others' manipulation, and you will cultivate a life built on strength, respect, and unshakable self-belief. Thank you so much for watching and investing your time in your personal growth. Remember, true strength comes from within, and every small step toward mastering these silent habits brings you closer to freedom, confidence, and control over your life. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content that empowers you to live life on your own terms. Share this with someone who needs to reclaim their power, because everyone deserves to be unshakable and free from manipulation. Until next time, stay strong, stay silent when needed, and always honor your worth. Goodbye, and take control of your life.